I just want to say welcome to team night, and there's lots of things been going on in church life and all those sorts of things. And so, can I firstly say just thanks to everyone on team who you're playing your part on so many different levels in the life of the church, no matter what location that you are on, and so I just want to appreciate that. And so tonight, I guess this is a follow-on from Sunday. And now, firstly, can I say about Sunday is probably the best thing to do is I want everyone to know I apologize for really just our church is now embroiled in because of my lack of a lot of things. And then I also really want to be able to say, as we're following on from Sunday, to all the black people in our church, I sincerely, and I really mean this, and you were expecting something of me, and I didn't bring what you were hoping I was going to bring. And all I can say is I really, you're hurt, and I am deeply regretful where you feel that I've let you down, and I just really apologize to you for that, and I really do stand in your corner. I really do stand on this, and I really do believe that Black Lives Matter, and so. The whole point of tonight is the fact that we're going to follow on from Sunday, where I said, as a church, we can't walk away from this. We can't shy away from this. This is something that if we don't step into, that we've wasted a time in history to actually say, come on, we're all big enough, mature enough, progressed enough to say this is time to deal with this. And otherwise, it just becomes these eruptions, and everyone just hopes it's all going to smooth over and go away. We can't smooth this over, and we can't just hope it's going to go away. We can actually engage and decide that we want to participate in doing something about it. And so my hope is, and my plea is, to all the white people in our church, that you will open your hearts and clear your minds and all those sorts of things that I believe that we need to do, and we need to listen, and we need to understand. And then after we listen and we understand, and this is the first step of what I'm hoping and really believing as well, there's going to be the beginning of a journey to say, come on, maybe could we possibly say that the 20s, that in 2020 something major happened, and in the 2020s that it was the generation that finally put this whole thing, saw healing and all the things that need to take place. If we're going to get about something, let's get about really believing that we're going to make a difference, and all play our part, whatever the part it is we have to play. So I'm giving a plea to the white people in our church. Just please, just be quiet enough in yourself, listen, and then together, we have to embrace this. And I'm not going to shy away from it. I'm going to embrace it, and I'm asking you to do the same thing. So that's what tonight's about. We've got something to take on. So I've got with me a couple of people, Mr. Watson,
yeah.
Dan,
all right.
and Amika, Rocky, and Antonio. And so understanding is probably one of the beginnings to most things. And you know, I get consumed with if people just understand God correctly, it'll change everything. And I really believe that if we can go, I'm going to gain an understanding on this, then it's amazing the difference that it'll make. And so, just as I'm going to hand over to Dan, and he's just going to speak, and we're going to ask some questions. And we sat together as a staff with some of the people on team on staff just this week, and it was just was fantastic, wasn't it?
It was.
And so I think you're going to find this great. I want to put one plea out, if I can put this out. Second plea is, you know, Dan is in a very difficult position. He's our youth pastor, and he's a youth pastor that has been in a long line of, not a long line, but a line of people that through what they do and their heart and their passion and all those sorts of things, he's our youth pastor. And not only that, he's who he is. And he's expected, because of his role as a pastor and a visual role as a pastor, he's expected to be the guy that says the right things on behalf of everybody, and he's the one that's, the high expectations are on him to get everything right and all those types of things. And I just want to put a plea out. We're going to support this guy, and we're going to be there for him. And I'll tell you now, he's like me. I'm not going to get it right 100% of the time. And I've already, as you already know that one, you've worked that one out. Dan might get it right more often than I do. But come on, we all want grace afforded to you, and I really want to challenge everybody to afford Dan the grace to be one of the people that's not just giving leadership, but it's a visual leadership. So I want you to do that, because I honor and respect you and love you and all those things, and I just want to make sure that you're looked after. And as I realize, anyway, it doesn't matter. So it's all over to you, mate. And I'll ask, sorry guys, I know this is a conversation that everyone's going to lean into. And so I'm going to start with, I'm going to ask Dan to talk a little bit. You're going to start with your story, or you're going to add your story in? I'm going to, so he's going to give you his perspective, and this is the context for everyone to get. For most of us who are, especially those of us who are white, well, let me say this, for those of us who are white, we have no idea just what it means to live in a system or live in a culture where this, as the terms people use are institutional racism or systemic racism, that we cannot comprehend what it is like to actually have to deal with this on a daily basis. And for a lot of people, you'll go, what do you mean on a daily basis? Well, I think your eyes are going to be open tonight, just as we get into this conversation. So I'm going to ask Dan to start.
Thank you,
and
boss.
Off we go, yeah?
All right. Thank you, boss. And we genuinely appreciate your humility and apology to everyone. And thank you for taking the time to open up the conversation to allow many people to learn about this stuff. You know, I think one of the reasons why people go, okay, or they're thinking why this incident in America with George Floyd is such a big thing. And it's just another incident. And it's not just another incident. The killing of a black man who was helpless and senselessly murdered on the streets by a white cop with his knee on his neck for 9 minutes, just watching life getting sucked out of him, would people standing by and scared to step in because what's going to happen to them, solely because of the color of their skin. And then people go, well, you know, that's there in America, but we're in the UK. And we are here in the UK, and our cops may not have guns, but there is police brutality. There is not just police brutality, there is systematical brutality, there is subtle racism that takes place, there is obvious racism that takes place, there is hatred that takes place. And I think with the murder of George Floyd, what it's done, it's not a catalyst for this, but it's the tipping point for this. Because within me, and I know within many people that I've spoken to, many of my friends, is saying, enough is enough. Like, we're tired of this now. And you go, okay, so what's enough is enough? Well, enough is enough that I'm made to feel this big in our society, that I would experience. I've never experienced a cop putting his knee on my neck. I've never felt a gun to my head, but there's racism that has taken place. You know, I remember the first time when I was about 6, 7 years old, and I realized, oh, I got different color skin. Like, I knew it, but I didn't know it. And so I remember coming home from school from my mum, and I'd given out these invitations for my birthday party, and I was friends with all these people. Anyways, one girl come to me, she says, gave me the invite back and said, something like, no, because you're black. So I was like, okay, but we're friends. And so I go home to my mum, and I open the door. When she opens the door, I just burst out crying. And she's like, what? And I didn't realize. And then from there, ever since, it's been racist. It's been you could be the only black kid in a whole school, and there's just comments that are thrown about. And maybe not hatred comments, but it's comments to make you feel like you're not normal or different or whatever. And you deal with that. You walk into a shop, and you know the security guard's looking at you. You know the security guard's following you around. And when I'm tired, like, it comes out. I'm like, bro, you don't need to follow me. I'm good, I've got money, I'm okay. And when I'm not tired, I just let it happen, because I just know. You know what I'm saying? Like, certain things where, even the apartment that we live in now, I really wanted to see it, and I had to beg my wife to come with me, and she didn't want to come with me. But I had to say, babe, if you come with me, you're a white girl, this is going to be favorable upon us. They're going to look at me differently. And it's like all of that stuff that we never talk about, and we oppress it within ourselves, don't we? Because it's just the way things are.
Yeah.
It's just the way it's always been, and that's what we have to deal with. You walk into places, into restaurants, and you know, you're looking at me like, why am I here? I've walked into places where they ask me to pay first. Like, and I can see around other tables that no one's paying for it. Why are you asking? But you oppress it. You oppress it, you oppress it, you oppress it. And I think what's come out now, in me anyway, and many people, is enough is enough. And the hurt, it's like trauma.
Yeah.
It's like, this is enough, and you've brought up 33 years of pain in me.
Yeah.
And this is why. And I think within our black community, within church, this is what it is. It's however old they are, those many years of pain, and it's going, this has got to change.
Yeah.
It's got to change for my children. Like, I live in Shoreditch, and I love Shoreditch, and it's amazing, and you all visit Shoreditch, I know that. But one of the reasons I live in Shoreditch is because it's so multicultural.
Yeah.
So I feel okay. I feel safe. It's not necessarily the place that I 100% want to live, but I feel safer there because it's multicultural, and no one's looking at me or calling me out because of the colour of my skin. That my kids can go to a school where there's many different kids of all different shades of colour, and I know that they're not going to get treated like I was, and thinking about that all the time, and trying to then conform to what is normal. And, you know, like Gary said, I've got Antonio here, Amika, and Rocky.
No, can I just one thing I want to ask you.
Yeah.
Right. I want to bring up something. I can remember one day we were trying to remember even where it was, but I can remember it happening, where you'd been invited to speak somewhere. You don't need to say where. And and a comment that was made somehow was, they invited, they needed a black speaker for the conference. And when that was said, I saw the look in your face and said, "Are you okay with that?" And you did what you've been taught to do, and you've been taught to suppress it and go, "Oh yeah, used to that." But then you said, "But how did you really feel?" Because I think people need to, because otherwise, because once again, that's what I said. You know, you're one of the key people on the platform in our church, and so. But how did that make you feel when you heard that?
Yeah, it was. It's very, I guess, very painful, and it hurts, and in your head, you're always second guessing yourself. I'm actually not good enough. I'm just, any opportunity that comes my way is because of the color of my skin, and I've got to be the token guy, or the whatever. And yeah, it sucks. And I think, you know, I'm a middle child anyway, so it doesn't help. But I think just that, just not being good enough, like it cuts you deep.
Yeah.
Like genuinely, and to be honest, there's many times I know I'm a pastor and I've got to think right, but there's many times I think like that. I'm the token black guy, or.
And I would suggest it's probably been said to you a few times as a joke.
Yeah, many times, or you know, and many times from probably good, willing people. I remember one time I said, you know, we'll have you, because at this point this is a veneer, by the way, and I had a little snaggle tooth, but I was like, we'll have you because you fill the quota as a black guy, and you got a funny tooth, so it's okay. And you just learn to laugh it off, but actually it hurts.
Yeah.
But because you're in a society that doesn't get it, well, I'm just gonna push it down again, push it down again, push it down again. And yeah, I think I've cried enough tears this week, and I don't know. Okay.
Gosh.
Yeah.
All right, Antonio.
Yes, Dan.
Tell us a little bit about your story, because
Yeah.
yeah.
So, my story is, my parents migrated from Congo to Spain. I grew up in Spain till the age of 9. At 9, I moved to Canada. At 12, I moved to London. And at 23, I lived in Australia till 25. So I've been around continents, and, you know, I know culture. So, a few stories. In Spain, I was the only black guy in my class. I had a guy called Ruben. He was my best friend. And I remember knocking on his door. And obviously in Spain, we've got siesta time. And then after siesta time, I'll knock on his door, and his dad was like, Ruben's not in. And I'm like, we're like 6 years old, like, where is he gonna go? And then his thing was like, oh, you're not in? And then I'll go. And then Ruben was like, my dad doesn't like black people, so you can't come in and knock on my door. You have to come in when my mum's out. I remember being in class, obviously primary school, you all put your bags in the same place, right? And then Tamagotchis a few Tamagotchis were missing. I remember this so clearly. And obviously in Spain, in case you don't know Madrid, we've got a bit of Roman gypsies, which can come across as like kind of mixed race. So they're all known as thieves and robbers and all that stuff. But the black people are a bit more advanced. You're drug dealers, especially because we went to church on a Sunday, and my dad did work hard. But the thing is that because we went to church on a Sunday and everyone came over to our house with suits, my dad was like the mafia lord, right? So they kind of like were a bit afraid of me or whatnot. But then the Tamagotchis were missing, and everyone's like, oh, who took it? And everyone's like, who else? Who's the only black guy? Black people are all thieves and drug dealers. And that's what it was. Yeah. Like, Antonio, shut up, go back to your country. But then, obviously, moving here in the UK, that's not the racism I experienced. I moved to Lewisham, South London, which my school is literally 99% black. A lot of Caribbeans, and here and there, like a few Africans, but predominantly black, obviously. And that was a whole different culture. I was obviously 12 years old, so I'm still growing, and my mind is still being formed. And obviously, when I moved to England, I didn't know any English. So I spoke slang, urban, however you want to call it.
Yeah.
Then I learned English because of my GCSEs and then all of that stuff. So the English I spoke wasn't the best. And I remember, in case you didn't know, I used to work for Dan when I was 21 years old, right? I always wanted to be a footballer, so I never had a proper job. And then I worked for Dan, and we used to teach PE, like primary school. I was 21, by the way. And then we'll leave, and I'll be like, oh, laters. And then we get into the car.
To the head teacher.
Oh, yeah, sorry, to the head teacher.
Yeah.
So we leave the school, and I'm like, oh, yeah, laters. See ya, bye. And then we get into the car, and then we'll be like, what's wrong with you? I'm like, what? And it's like, you don't speak like that. Like, that's not how we speak here. So growing up for me was like, that's all I knew. But then obviously, we were in Essex as well, so it's a predominantly white area. So the way I had to speak had to change in order for me to fit in. Because growing up in Southeast London, it was always a thing that you're always guilty. If a crime's happened here right now and police comes, I'm guilty because I fit the description regardless. Oh yeah, this happened, you're black, you fit the description, so that's what I knew. And obviously now, growing up a bit more, it's interesting because going back to all of that, like I've always tried to, you know, like, I'm so used to it, I suppressed it. I had to change the way I spoke for interviews because black people need to talk different in interviews. So I had to wear a mask. This is how you speak in an interview. Yeah, we call it, you have to speak white. Like, that's how you speak. You can't be saying things like, obviously, where I grew up in Lewisham, we call each other fam because we're family. In church, obviously, you hear, hey, bro, how you doing? But we call each other fam. But you can't say that in a job interview because you're not going to get the job. So my way of speaking had to change because if you speak like fam as a black guy, you're hood, for example, or you're criminal, basically, you're a thug or whatever. So you have to speak, you have to overspeak on the other side to be good enough. It's not just anything. But if a white guy spoke like that, oh, he's cool. Yeah. You know, he listens to rap music, yeah, oh my God. But it's different, you know? So, so for me, I've suppressed it for so long that it becomes in who I am. And obviously, like, I got two Sainsbury's stories. No offense to Sainsbury's. No offense. No offense to them. But it's Sainsbury's. So it was... So obviously, my dad sends me to the shop. Sent me to the shop. He was like, hey, can you get me some stuff? And then I got him some stuff, and I forgot to get him a bottle of water because I was rushing. So it's like, you're not going anywhere until you get me a bottle of water. This was literally... Oh, because of lockdown, time's gone fast. But it was literally not long ago. So... I drove to the shops, and I was with my girlfriend. She was in the car because we was going to a birthday party, right? So I parked in a double yellow line. Not meant to park. So I went to Sainsbury's just real quick, get a water bottle. And as I was leaving, I put on the self-checkout, no receipt. The security guard was watching me throughout the whole thing. And I put no receipt. And as soon as I started leaving, I was like, excuse me, can I see your receipt? And I'm like, oh, pressing on the self-checkout. And then he was like, okay. And I didn't use my Apple Pay, it usually comes up on your phone. And I looked at my phone, it wasn't there. I was like, oh yeah, I used my card. But I was in a rush because I'm late for the party. My dad wants this water. So then I'm like, I don't know. So he's like, so how much is the water bottle? And I'm like, oh my goodness. I don't remember. He's like, are you sure you bought this? And I'm like, I'm a big man. Like, why am I going to come here to steal a water bottle? Yeah. And it's like, show me proof. And then someone's using the self-checkout, so they couldn't reprint the last receipt. So I'm there for like 15, 20 minutes. And my girlfriend's calling me. He's like, what's going on, And I'm there trying to explain to this dude that I did not steal 50-something pennies of a water bottle. But the reality is that because of my skin color, my dreadlocks, maybe my bandana, I'm a gang member, I'm a thug or something. When to me it's just like, for example, my hair's messy, my head shape is bad, so I've grown my hair. So I look a type of way because I fit a description or profile of how a black thug looks like.
Yeah.
In Southeast London.
So let me ask you, how does it feel then? because I want people to grasp this. How does it feel to have to prove your innocence?
Before this week, it felt normal because it's a way of life.
Right.
Like, it's nothing new to me. Like, I've always had to prove my innocence since I told you, since Spain, like, I had to prove that I didn't steal that Tamagotchi. Like, I had to go through that consistently. So I know that that's a way of life. But obviously, going back to this week, it's bringing wounds again that, you know, we'd never heal because we always see injustice and we suppress it. So for me, having to prove my innocence, it's not hard work. For me to prove to people that, for example, if we want to talk about white privilege, for example, for me to prove that as a black guy, for example, I am good enough to be somewhere, it's not hard work because that's what we've always done.
Yeah.
If I've never done it before, then it's hard work. It's hard work to be myself because myself is not good enough.
Yeah.
That is hard work. Being fake, putting on a mask to fit in and belong, that's easy. Done it always. We've always done it, you know? So that's, if that answers your question.
Yeah, so then knowing that we have to put in a mask to fit in, and I think this is what I've, like you, hit this week, is mask off.
Yeah.
Again, and anyone can jump in. How does that make you feel, going, I know I put on a mask?
It's really interesting what he said about the receipt in Sainsbury's, or lack of receipt in Sainsbury's, because once they introduced the self-checkout, I always get a receipt for that very reason.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, yes.
So
I always get a receipt because I'm, like you said, because you've learned to navigate yourself in white spaces. And you know when you go into a shop, people are looking at you, you know, they all suddenly get to attention and whatever. I always get a receipt. Always. If it's a 50p bar of chocolate, would you like a receipt? Yes. And I put it in my purse, and your purse is full of receipts. But it's just, it's like, it's the reality you live with because you just get used to it and you know how to navigate the system. And you don't, I think we were discussing earlier, and it said because you've learned to navigate the system, an incident has to be, for me, let me talk to myself, for me, because I've learned to navigate the system, you learn to live within the system. For me, something has to be really overt to rile me. See what I mean?
Yeah.
So all the low-level stuff is the daily things, the daily trials of stepping out of your house being black. You know, as soon as you close the front door, it's game on. Let's go. I don't go into every situation looking for the racism within it, because I refuse to live my life through that lens. However, I am conscious of the possibility of racism within every situation. Yeah. See what I mean? There's a difference. I mean, people are listening to me talk, and you know, my accent is a little bit different, you know, to everyone here. So sometimes people assume that you've grown up within a different sphere or a different environment, or you grew up in a different environment because you sound, you know, a little bit posh-ish. But I actually lived in Streatham, went to school in Balham. Yeah. I lived in Manchester. Yeah. You can't hear it anywhere in the accent, you know. Yeah. But African parents, good diction, all the rest of that, you know. So, but you still, so you learned to navigate yourself within a white space. Not to make yourself invisible, because, I mean, I can only speak for myself, not to make yourself invisible, but you learned to navigate yourself within these spaces. And their people's reactions or attitudes thereby sort of became the norm which you lived in. Yeah. It's not okay, but it's the norm in which you lived in. And because of the nature of my dad's job at the time, we grew up in and around Middle England. A lot of, my father's a retired clergyman. And so he traveled a lot to different churches, and sometimes we went with him because his job at the time was to, you know, to talk about mission and to deal with mission. He worked for a missionary society at the time. And so you learn to eat kind of like English food, as it were, which is fine, actually. My mother, honestly, did a very good job. Sounds very kind of sexist, but you know what I mean. She did a very good job when we were growing up. We ate both Nigerian food and English food so that you kind of like learn to eat everything. So you can go out and you can go anywhere and actually be able to sort of partake of it. But because you sort of grew up within those spaces, you sort of got used to being the only black person in fill in the blank, you know? So I remember going to a Christian festival for the first time, not gonna say which one, but we looked around and my siblings and I were the only black kids in the whole youth section. Like, you went into the youth, and we were the only black kids there. Now, at this time we were living in Manchester, so you were used to urban spaces as well as these spaces, but you've learned to navigate between the two. And, but you just kind of looked around and thought, oh, we're the only black people here. Okay. And you just kept it moving because that's what you do.
Yeah.
And I remember when I was at A-level, because I'm a lawyer, I'm a partner in a law firm, and my form room teacher at the time, when I was looking for universities to go to study law, I researched the top 10 universities for law in England and applied there because that's the way it was going to be. I wanted to go to the best university. And my form room teacher said to me, "You're aiming too high." Huh. You know, and...
What's going through your mind at that point?
At that point, I thought that his opinion was not a viable one, therefore I did not take it on board.
You dismissed it straight away, or did you process it?
No, there was no processing. It was kind of like he is... it was just not a viable opinion in my... it was just nonsensical. So I just kind of dismissed what he said. But I did go home and tell my parents that's what he said. And the thing is, for me at the time, and even still now, I had a very strong counterbalancing voice at home. So researching the top 10 universities in in England, to then decide which to go to, to study, you had that bedrock at home. Of course you do. Why would you look at any other kind of universities to study for law?
Yeah.
Is the mindset coming from home? So when he said that, you kind of thought, oh, what a beep. But I didn't swear at the time at home because parents type thing. So you didn't really, but so it's kind of like and you just sort of dismiss it and just get. So, but I mean, I low key sort of want to find the man now to just ask him to explain his statement.
Right.
And by the way, I did go to one of the top 10 universities in England for law, and I did go to one of the very good law schools, and I did, and et cetera, et cetera. I mean, I'm not incredibly petty, just a little bit sometimes. So you sort of want to find them and just say, yeah, about that thing you were saying, Yeah. So but you just get used to navigating those spaces, and you get used to those kind of comments. You get used to the, you get used to sly remarks. You get, as a lawyer, as a qualified person, you get used to. See, I sound the way I sound. So when you're talking to me on the phone, you don't know that I'm black.
Yeah.
Pretty much. My sister, he's laughing. My sister calls it my,
You get your wife friends to make certain phone calls for you. It's like, because my
sister calls it my hoity-toity voice. Sometimes when I'm at work, it ramps up a bit. I can't help it. It just ramps up a bit. But this is honestly the way I talk. It's not an affectation. It's just the way I talk. We don't really have an accent from any region because we kind of moved around a bit. And like I said, African parents, good diction. You leave it at that sort of thing. But so when you come out to then meet the client, and you can see the double take.
100%.
Very quick double take. Now, they think,
I remember you reminded me of a story.
Yeah.
I went to pick someone up from the airport once, and I said, hey, I'm outside just waiting for you, like in this bit. And he's coming out, and I looked at him because I saw what his picture looked like. So I'm like, oh, hey, I'm Dan. He's like, really? You're black?
Thanks.
You didn't sound black.
But can I just interject for a minute, right? Because it's not a joke.
No, I know you guys. This is what we've learned
what I'm trying to say. So
the last 33
I want to ask you the question, though. How does it really make you feel? Because I want you to answer it because, see, you guys are talking, and this is how you handle it.
Yeah.
Well, we'll just joke about it, and we'll just, yeah, I'm the black guy, I'm the token black guy. Oh yeah, that's this is what it means when you go shopping. You got to get your receipt, or you just, yep, you've always got the security guard, or, and then and it's like, well, now we're, and yeah, that's how I do it. But how does it make you feel? And I don't want to force you to talk about how it makes you feel, but how does it make you feel when you just come up against this every day of your life? You've learned how to live in it, but the feeling that has gone.
If I could swear, I'd say the yes, bro.
Yeah.
It makes you feel makes you feel like you want to. Yeah, there's rage. What do you mean? Why are you? What box have you put me in?
Yeah.
What are you expecting? I don't know what's in your, like, why is, I don't know. It's hard, you guys say. What do you think?
Well, I was born in London, but I grew up in Milton Keynes. And I guess a lot of people will look at me and be like, Rocky hasn't experienced racism. Rocky's like one of the happiest people in the universe. And cartwheels through life. But I've come from like mixed heritage. So my parents were like, my grandma's white Dutch. And she was in an interracial relationship in Ghana in the 60s. So, you know, she got spat in the streets, pushing a buggy with a black kid. So ingrained in my DNA is the fight against people that hate me because of my pigmentation and my skin. You know, growing up in Milton Keynes, which, you know, it's not London. So you wouldn't think racism exists. Like, you think London's like a hotbed. But I've been stopped and searched 10 times in my life. The most vivid one is being accused of armed robbery in the middle of the day and being handcuffed and embarrassed in front of everybody. Everybody walking past you, looking like you're a criminal. And it's just, yeah, dehumanizing, almost. You're made to look like a prop. You're made to look like enforcing a narrative that you've fought your whole life against. I've made music for like 10 years, and even in that sphere, I've been asked like why I make white music. Why do I dress white? Why do I, like, even though I'm embodying the truest self that I want to embody, I have to fight and explain myself. I have to come against people's stereotypes that I'm not enforcing. And like we said, and you alluded to, Gary, you laugh about it, but it's cutting you deeper and deeper and deeper. It's a wound that's opening up more and more and more and more. And especially like, what I'd say, especially as like a Christian, right? Galatians 3:28 is like, there's no Jew nor Gentile, or male or female, or slave or free. Like, there's no distinction. You should identify yourself as Christ above everything. And you read that scripture and you're like, yeah, no, I'm a son of God first. You know, but if every time you get a job interview, someone's like, you're black. And every time you go into a shop, you're black. And every time I put out music, you're black. And black isn't linked to professionalism or eloquence or beauty or positivity. Yeah. Black is linked to being a criminal and being a thug and primitive and ugly and lazy. Those are the synonyms that are linked to blackness. Yeah. So that's what we're all saying, being reminded that you're black. People be like, but black's awesome. But in the culture we're in, black isn't awesome. Black's ugly. Yeah. So being reminded that you're ugly at every opportunity, when you're trying to forget that, especially as Christian, not even forget that. I'm trying to be like Christ, but you're telling me I'm not like Christ. Yeah. You're telling me I can never be like Christ because first and foremost, I'm black. Yeah. You know, the last time I got stopped and searched was when I was 2 years ago, 2018. And it lasts seconds, and like you alluded to, you laugh it off because you're just like, you're bantering with the policeman at this point. Do you mean, when you've gone through dense Hobson searches, it's not the first time you're like, you go home crying. Like, why am I getting stopped and searched? I'm not a criminal. After the 10th time, boss man, do you want to stop? Yeah. Okay, da-da-da. We're laughing about it, blah, blah, blah. Like, how many black guys have you stopped today? No, I haven't stopped loads of black guys. Cool, you're reaching your stop and search quota, whatever. But, so that lasts seconds. But it's the people walking past, That's what the impact is.
It's humiliation.
It's humiliation.
Yeah.
Because I've spent 28 years raging against a stereotype that I feel is not right.
Yeah.
And in a second, boom,
Yeah.
someone walks past, he deserves it. All black guys are thugs. I knew it, da-da-da-da-da. You know, you're instantly dehumanized.
Yeah.
And it's enraging because imagine, as you alluded to, you're leaving your house, yeah? I have to think about work. I have to think about finding someone that wants to love me. I have to think about extending the kingdom. And then on top of that, I have to hope that the boss man that's driving the bus isn't racist, so he might not stop for me.
Yeah.
real.
I have to think about getting a taxi and having to pay straight up because they don't trust me enough. I have to think about if I have a girlfriend going to her house and hoping her parents aren't racist.
Yeah.
Like, it's standard.
No, it's true.
It's
It's true.
standard.
Yeah.
Like, all of those things are weighed on top of me trying to seek kingdom in my life.
And that's when we talk about, you know, when we talk about white privilege, we're not like, it's like, no, you actually privileged because you got white skin.
Yeah.
Like, instead of me stopping the taxi,
Yeah,
babe,
so
you step out and stop the taxi,
Yeah,
please.
yes.
And then I'll follow.
Yeah.
And that's it. And that's it. And I'll wait with the kids, and you stop the taxi, and then we'll get in. But that's that's genuine. That's life.
You'll say to Joe, you
You put your hand out and stop the taxi, or you stop the bus, and they'll stop for you.
And
Like, that's day
if
to
it was
day.
incidental, it'll be fine. Do you know what I mean? Like, if it was one thing, right? So, like, someone could cross your path, right? And you can be enraged in that incident, or you can let it go in that incident, right? But, like, so some people are like, oh, racism, man. You know what? If someone calls you the N-word on the street, just, you know, you shrug it off. But it's like, there's only so much, for example, if I don't get a job because I'm black, I can't rage against if I don't get 7 jobs in a row, there's only so much I'm gonna fight. I'm gonna assimilate.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I'm not gonna be like, okay, I'm gonna take you on, and I'm gonna take you.
You're just tired.
Fight.
You're tired,
It's
yeah.
tiring.
And then there was the situation with George Floyd and everything that happened in that situation.
George was like the third person in like three weeks.
Yeah.
In 3 weeks. You know what I mean? You had Ahmad, and then you had that woman, Amy Cooper. And I think that's the one that got me. Because that really showed, I don't know if you saw the video, but she says, all the dude asked her to do, where there's signs everywhere, is keep your dog on the leash. And she wouldn't put her dog on the leash. And he had his phone out, luckily. I'm gonna call the police and tell him there's an African-American man harassing me. And that just shows I'm white and you're black and this system works for me and not you.
Yeah.
And you need to be scared of me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's like, no, that's not, wow. That's how people are still thinking in 2020. That's how, that's got to stop.
But that's how people are thinking, but that's also how, that's your daily, I live my life daily with that.
Yeah, and I know for me, and I can't speak for everyone, or no one else has kids, but I think the pain in all of this, and generally, like me and Joe sat at the kitchen table yesterday and bawled our eyes out. Because, like you said, the last 33 years, I've learned to deal with this. And so I'm strong. I've got big shoulders. Whatever, it's not fair, it's not right, it's not good. And I think of my kids, and I dread the day that Bella or Jude come home from school and go, Daddy, I got picked on because they said something about my skin. Or I didn't get this because of my skin. That's what I'm fighting for. I'm fighting for my kids. Stuff me. I'm fighting for my kids. That's my, what have they done to deserve that in their life? So when I'm thinking about where to go to school, where to move, I'm not thinking about where I want to live. I'm thinking about where are they gonna be all right? Where are they gonna? But that's the stuff where I'm genuinely like, enough is enough. It's got to change, and not even for me, but this generation that is coming in. Otherwise, it's just a cycle and a cycle and a cycle, and it's disgusting.
Until that verse becomes a reality for everybody, we have to fight it.
Yeah.
Until I can identify the Christ in you first and foremost above everything else, We have to fight it. Until you're not oppressed because of your skin colour, we have to fight it, because the reality is, especially within a church context, nor Jew, nor Gentile, nor male or female, nor slave, or no, that's not reality for people.
Yeah.
Yet. So until, you know, there is no pain, no suffering, until kingdom is established, we fight till kingdom is established.
Yeah.
We have to take action till kingdom is established.
Yeah.
Because, like you, I don't want someone to ask Mike, like, you being a partner in a law firm, until that's not a surprise, we fight.
Yeah, for real.
Until me going to Oxford isn't a surprise, we fight.
Yeah.
Until you're not considered a drug dealer, we fight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so until that is a reality for every single person in our community, in our church, in our country, and in this world,
Yeah.
then...
So I'll ask you a question on the fight, all right? So I'm the white guy who... I'm the white guy who so got it wrong, right? So you say fight, right? And I feel compelled to go, you say we fight. It needs to mean we fight, that you're inviting me to fight with you
100%.
on this.
Yeah.
And is that...
It's...
Because I think the reason I'm saying this, right, the reason I'm asking the question, because because it's a little bit like the perception so easily is you're fighting.
Yeah.
And, well, we're watching you fight.
Yeah.
And just don't really, what are you fighting about, guys?
Yeah.
And it's almost like, I feel like the important thing, you know, as everyone as well understands now, I haven't got a clue, right? Is the, you know, I find myself as a person, I've always, you know, he'll come and tell me stories, and I'm like, well, if I was young enough, I'd come and hit them with you. And so I'm quick to jump to defense. I'm quick to say, I believe in you. I'm quick to say, I love you. I'm quick to say all of the almost like the this is wrong thing. But the fight, it's not just, you're not looking for a white guy, if I can put, I'll just use the term because that's what I am, to say, come to my defense. You're saying to the white guy, join us in the fight, fight for us, with us, so we don't have to live. Is that...
Otherwise, it turns into an echo chamber.
Yeah.
Because the oppressed people talking about their oppression does not alleviate the oppression. It's like, if us have a conversation about racism, we know about racism. We are the embodiment of Black Lives Matter. The people that are not the embodiment that need to own that like it's theirs, because that's when transformation comes. Do you know what I mean? It's like, similar analogy to like, if everybody in the church is praying for everybody in the church, who's affecting the world?
No one.
No one. But then what it does is gives everyone a high five in the room. It's like, hey, hey man, I pray for you. It's like, there's millions of people out there that don't know Christ. There's millions of people that don't understand Black Lives Matter. And together, united,
that's why
you have to change it.
It's powerful seeing people like all sorts of people on the march today. That was powerful to see. It's powerful to see, you know, in the George Floyd video, you know, the woman that could get the closest to the cops was a white woman, because the black people had to stay back. And so when we say stand, it's stand with us in solidarity. Stand with us is in, you got the power. Like, whether we like it,
because I know for me, when I watch the video, I'm sitting there thinking, how can this be going on for 9 minutes? Or 9 minutes and X amount of seconds. Like, and nobody stepped in. Filming it. Film it for 9 minutes, but I can't actually do anything about it. And that's because the whole thing, the black person steps in the defense of it, and it's all over.
Yeah.
It's all over for everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They get shot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, like but what we have to realize is that all these structures, anything that is not of kingdom is man-made, so can topple.
Yeah.
And it's like, but I need your voice.
Yeah.
I need your voice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I need your voice, and I need your voice. Because only with every person of color and every white person and everybody under the sun, we need to shout at these systems
Yeah.
until they break, because they're man-made.
And that's the thing where we got to be self-educators in this.
Yeah.
We got to learn, like black people and white people. Everyone's got to learn about this, and if we're calling it out as systematic racism, we've got to understand what we're talking about in terms of what does the system look like? Where does that come from? Oh my gosh, when we actually look at the history of it,
Yeah.
you go, this is disgusting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The way this has come about is disgusting.
Yeah.
That's got to change, and but only you can educate yourself. Only you can change your heart, change your mindset, and once you've done that, you go, now I know what I've got to do. I've got to bring change. But first of all, we've got to listen, and we've got to educate, and then we've got to go, this is what we've got to do.
Yeah. Can I also add something on that? Because, for example, going back to like growing up in London and what I was saying to you, and that's how I view personally what privilege is, the whole aspect of, because my parents' mindset was completely different, for example, Gary, than your mindset. Their mindset was a survival mindset and not a living mindset. They just knew survival. So when they raised me, they never gave me options. My mom never said, hey, Antonio, you're really good at this, or what's your dream, or I think it would be awesome if you learn piano. It was a thing, just go to school, get your education so that you can get an education that I never had, so that you can put food on the table for your kids. So I'm fortunate enough that my parents are still together, but the reality of it is that, like, I know loads of black people, their parents are not together anymore. So you have a single mom who's both mom and dad to a big family living in a small council flat, and it's just survival. So often it's unfortunate that we can't look at everyone the same. So we talk about systematic racism. It's like, who's the best person for the job? I don't look at color. If he's white, then he'll get it. If he's black, he'll get it. But the reality was that the black person had a late start to life, because I didn't know how to speak to a head teacher till I was 21, and because you taught me. But I'm pretty sure, for example, you taught Tori how to speak, maybe didn't teach her, but she just knew because of you knew how to be parents to her. My parents were like, Antonio, we need to survive. I loved football. They were like, but you're gonna break your leg and then what's gonna happen? So to me, it's like, I'm gonna prove you wrong. But by then, it's like, I didn't go uni. I did bad in my GCSEs, so what's going on? Like, I don't, maybe I was good at something that no one actually exploited that talent out of me or got that gold out of me, because where my surrounding was. So when I think of systematic racism, it's if you have parents who, and generations, like I don't know my grandparents, do you get what I'm saying? So if you have a family tree, for example, that is healthy, and unfortunately a lot of us black people isn't, if you have a good family tree, for example, then you have the upper hand in a certain way.
Yeah.
You have a better level of education. You just have an overall view of, you can say, son, I'm gonna buy you a first car. I was like, I had to get my first car. Do you get what I'm saying? So it's a thing that I had to work harder to achieve something that someone else, because of the privilege or where they've come from, received easier. So going back to that, sorry, who's the best man for the job? Of course I'm not the best man for the job. I didn't finish uni.
Yeah.
I didn't even go uni. I got bad GCSEs, but I could have been the best man for that job, but I just was never capable. And the reality is that a lot of black people can't get to those places of high power per se to do anything, because they were unfortunate enough to not be led to get that education in order to be there.
didn't have the opportunity.
Can I speak into that?
Yeah.
I think that's where the importance of mentors and optics. And when I say optics, I mean you can become what you see. If you see it's possible, you believe that it is possible.
Yeah.
And so, because my family experience is very different to your family experience. So, you know, in my family, yes, there were lawyers and doctors and architects and blah, 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 and you were going to school. Going to university was not an option. You were going.
Yeah.
You know, and so, but because what you can see is possible, then you believe that it is possible for you to become. And I know that there are lots of black lawyers who've gone before me, and they've had to navigate those spaces with a certain level of grace because I was coming behind them. And it's unfortunate that the person who is the first or the only bears the burden for the race.
Yeah.
It's completely unfair, but they bear the burden for the race. But that one person then becomes a catalyst for like a movement behind them. So it's very important for young people, and I'm probably the second oldest person sitting around here. Sorry, Pastor Gary. And the responsibility for someone like me to those coming behind me is huge.
Yeah.
And is it fair? No. But you change the system one person at a time.
Yeah.
And sometimes when you talk about fighting, sometimes fighting is giving the best person for the job, i.e. the black person, if the black person, giving the black person the job because they are a qualified candidate. Because when you have two candidates of equal ability, which candidate are you going to choose? I remember watching, I was one of these, it was John, whatever it was, he was a barrister, and his barristers' chambers were wanting to hire a new barrister in a TV program, and there was a black lady who'd gone to Oxford, and then there was another lawyer. So they'd interviewed them, and for somehow they hadn't figured out which of the barristers had gone to Oxford, and so they asked him, who do you think we should hire? Now, he knew that the black candidate had gone to Oxford, but they didn't. His fellow barristers who were part of the chambers didn't. And so he says to them, oh, hire the person who went to Oxford. And they both had English-sounding names, so they sort of came out and said, OK, we're going to hire so-and-so. And then the black lady stands up. Because she was that particular candidate and she had gone to Oxford, but they just didn't assume that she had. So fighting looks very different depending on the sphere you're in.
Yeah.
You see what I mean?
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying give somebody a job just because they're black, because that's patronising.
That's wrong. Yeah.
That's incredibly patronising.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is that you give a young man like Antonio, when he is that young, the access and opportunity, and you believe in him at that age, because that's also part of fighting.
Yeah, yeah.
Like my teacher, my form room teacher didn't fight for me when he told me I was aiming too high. If he in that moment had said, go on, yeah, actually, let me help you research the top 10 universities. You know, fighting looks different depending on the sphere you're in, and being part of that fight is actually being part.
But the thing that I think, just because I know we're heading towards the end time-wise, but you with the fight, right? So it's got nothing to do with whether he looks like a criminal in the eyes of whoever passes that judgment, because you don't look like a criminal.
No.
And you don't sound like a criminal.
Well.
And you're not qualified like a criminal in that, using that sense. However, you still come up against, I'm black, and I don't fit any of the stereotypes of well, it's your own fault, dude, right? You fit none of the stereotypes. However, the stereotype still exists. You're black, and you feel the pressure of I'm black, and the decision or the treatment and the rest of it goes on And it's all based on nothing to do with, I don't fit the stereotype, but the one stereotype I do fit is I'm black. If stereotype's the wrong word,
Yeah.
I realise that.
Yeah.
And I think, I know it's for the end of all of this, and, you know, firstly, just for you guys, it isn't easy to sit down and start talking about how you feel and talking about the world you live in, how it is from your perspective. And I think you did awesome. And because I get it, this is all pressure, right?
Yeah,
and I keep trying to say to people, and I've said to everyone that I've encountered, you know, you gotta say how it is. You gotta say how it feels, and say as much as you want. You don't have to say everything, but you got to say, this is what it is for me. This is what it is to me. And I put the challenge to everybody, and that's a part of our church, because we're talking about our church at the moment, and you know, I recognise that I said when we're COVID-19, what's going to change? Wow.
Maybe it's this.
And I think the methods of how we approach things on issues of race, those methods are left behind before COVID-19, and we have to look at it, approach it differently. And as I said, I'm up for the fight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I just really want to challenge everyone in the church to say, hey, come on, let's come out of the gates on this, and let people be heard. Don't make them talk. Don't put pressure on people to share what they don't want to share. But if they share more than what you were expecting, I want to really encourage you to let them. And I guess if I was to put it like this, you know, we've all got fathers. How long they've been around is all different for all of us, but if I use this as an example, you know, sometimes you just want to say something, or you want to just rail, Dad, you treated me wrong, you let me down or whatever, and that's a bit how I sort of feel what I've done for guys like you and everybody else.
And in that note, I would say that we have to forgive fathers, because fathers are humans who disappoint us.
Yeah.
And the love doesn't change. We love you. I love you. And I can speak for a lot of people. And I know you love me. And I know you love us. And we just move on from this, and there's no point dwelling in this.
And I get that. I appreciate that. Okay, so if I haven't said it, and once again, thanks for joining us tonight. Thanks for joining us on All Team Night. I know this is a big season that we find us in, but come on, let's get in this. Let's get on the journey of this. Let's all engage this and believe that God's going to do something great. So can we pray? Yeah. And Father, we just commit everything that's taking place right now, and every single black person that's been affected by this, every individual who've been just victims and been oppressed by racism. Father, we lift every one of them to you, and we're believing that we're going to enter into a move of God that brings so much healing into people's lives. Father, I pray that for every single person, whether it be black, whether it be white in our church, that together we can say, come on, we're going to get in this fight together. And we just believe that you're going to use us, Jesus, in whichever concept or whichever way you use us. Amen.
Amen.